Hello friends, hello professionals, and welcome back to my channel, The Sea of Regulation. Simone here, and I'm back with one of my videos for the basics. What's the difference between source of funds and source of wealth? And is there any other information that you should know in relation to this? But before I dive into the content, let me get my usual disclaimers out of the way. I am a financial services regulator. I am not a lawyer, and I am not a financial advisor. And the views on this channel are definitely all my own and do not reflect the views of any international standard setting body or regulatory authority. Now with that out of the way, let's dive in. Source of funds, source of wealth. People ask for them when they're carrying out due diligence, but many people don't understand when or what is really being asked of them. And in some cases, some service providers seem to not be able to get it right either. So let's clarify. Source of funds. You may be asked about the source of funds in relation to a specific transaction. So you're sending money via a wire remitter, so your Western Union, your MoneyGram, or you may be sending it via a bank transfer, wire transfer, using SWIFT system. I'm thinking that that's going to become a thing of the past in a few years, but let me stay on topic. You may be sending a wire transfer, and that money may be sent to yourself. It may be sent to a friend. It may be sent to a family member. Now, what the institution may ask you is the source of funds if it falls out of your normal transaction. But what typically happens is that it's asked on the receiving end, especially if it goes above a certain amount. Now, what amount is that? I can't really tell you because different jurisdictions have different thresholds and different financial institutions will also have their own thresholds. And they won't publicize that because if you knew that, then the money launderers and the criminals would know that, and they would start layering their transactions, breaking it up, smurfing it, and integrating that money into the financial system. So it's not that I'm being obtuse, but there's an actual legitimate reason that you're not being told what's a threshold for triggering a source of funds inquiry. Now, you've received the inquiry before you can get your money. And usually when you stand in between people and their money, they're not happy. But it's important to understand that this is a mechanism for anti-money laundering purposes. If it is that I'm sending money from myself to myself, that shouldn't strike you as odd, right? Right? I mean, we have some global conditions going on, and some of us are not in our home countries, but we have our obligations to maintain in our home countries. So we may be employed, or we may be a digital nomad, working in another jurisdiction, receiving payments, and we are being paid by our employer and need to send money to the country that we're sitting in as a digital nomad, or vice versa. You have family somewhere, you need to send that money. Each transaction can trigger a source of funds request, and it can be done on a randomized basis to make sure that, you're not smurfing that money. So instead of hitting, say, I don't know, $10,000 in US currency seems to be one of the markers in some forms and declarations, and that is not putting anything out there for money launderers, but it tends to be. So if you knew that that was a limit, you might break up your transactions to see 3,000, 3,000, and 4,000, and be willing to pay the extra fee because you're laundering money and you don't want to be caught. Those are the issues that we in financial services regulation and in compliance try to make sure that we're vigilant of and try to address. Now, as it relates to source of wealth, that is a bit different. That is the question in relation to where you get your overall wealth from. And that is typically asked during the opening of a bank account or the beginning of a business relationship, say with your trust and corporate services provider. Did a video on that recently. I'll link it in the description below. It's important to understand what they do. At least I think so, because I think they're going to be regulated globally by every country in the next 5 years. But that's just my opinion. What do I know? But as it relates to source of wealth, why is this important? Well, you see, there are certain places and certain persons, let's just stick with persons, because crime happens everywhere. Money laundering doesn't necessarily happen in one jurisdiction and not another. That is a misnomer. And they don't happen with greater frequency in some jurisdictions like journalists would have you believe. We just don't have the banking assets to actually have that happen. But I'm getting off topic. Let me get back on point. It's important to understand source of wealth to make sure that you're not facilitating other illegal activities. So you have someone who's never been employed in their life and they're living a lavish lifestyle. Their source of wealth could be from an inheritance. It could be from winning the lottery. It could be from certain cryptocurrencies mooning and maybe going to Mars and Jupiter and you becoming a crypto millionaire. You convert some of that into fiat because, you know, not everywhere accepts cryptocurrencies as yet. But you could convert some of that into fiat, and that could be your source of wealth. Your source of wealth can also be from your employment. So where am I getting this $3,000 from? Hey, I work. What's your problem, right? But you want to make sure that you understand why you're being asked the questions and what it's for. Because some people have obtained their wealth through bribes and corruption and embezzlement and, you know, just pilfering the public purse, and drug trafficking, human trafficking, and a whole host of other crimes, environmental crimes. Did a video in relation to that too. I'll link that in the description below. Any illegal criminal activity can actually help someone generate ill-gotten wealth that they will then try to pass off as legitimate. And if they cannot evidence their source of wealth, that actually raises flags in relation to your risk assessing of that individual, as well as your reporting to law enforcement authorities and your financial investigations unit. Now, there have been a number of cases in the media about certain countries where persons can't explain their wealth and are subject to an unexplained wealth order. And if they couldn't explain the wealth, guess what? You kind of have to part with it. And if you can think on the jurisdiction that I'm referring to, definitely drop it in the comments below. But one other thing in relation to unexplained wealth orders, I don't think it will stay in that one country. I do believe that it will be a tool used by law enforcement and other judicial branches of government in the future to help thwart money laundering, terrorist financing, financial crimes, and other proceeds from just horrible activity. But don't want to end it too dark. So when you're asked these questions, understand that it's a part of preventing the systems from being corrupted by money launderers and terrorist financiers and other criminals. And I do say corrupted because the effects in the actual financial system do corrupt it. Inflation, also topical of late, can impact you because if a particular criminal can afford more real estate or actually pay more for real estate than what the market typically experiences, guess what that does to the price of real estate? And it could mean that you may be renting for a lot longer than you thought. But I'm going to end it here because there are a lot of socioeconomic discussions I could go down, a lot of rabbit holes that I could go down in relation to the effects of money laundering and all these different things, the social harm. There are a lot of issues that are connected, but this is the basics and I'm going to keep it basic. So I just need you to do the usual YouTube thing. Remember what those are? Definitely give me a like. Make sure that you share this with your friends because sharing is caring. Subscribe if you haven't and hit the notification bell so that you are up to date and in the know when I drop a video. And I'm going to wrap it up here, guys, and I'll definitely catch you on the next one.